if we have a huge disaster and lots of property is damaged, houses are destroyed by trees that fall, they're flooded out. Obviously, what has to happen? People get jobs repairing the damage, rebuilding. People are having to fix the streets. There's all kinds of work that is created as a result of having to replace all the things that are lost in a natural disaster. And the Keynesian economists will always point to those things and say, look at all the economic activity. Look at all these jobs that we otherwise would not have had if these houses didn't collapse. Because if they didn't collapse, we wouldn't have to rebuild them. And so therefore, it is an economic stimulus because now we have the multiplier effect and all this nonsense, right? Well, the broken window fallacy basically breaks that down to a very simple story of a kid who throws a rock through a window. And the jobs that are created are obvious because now the man who owns the house with a broken window needs to call the window repairman to fix that window. And so Keynes would look at this and see, oh, well, now there's a job, there's economic activity because now this guy needs to repair the window, but now he needs glass, and so he has to contact the glass guy, and now somebody, of course, has to transport the glass to the window guy, and there's several jobs that are created along the line, because of the fact that this guy broke his window, because now stuff happens, there's economic activity that never would have taken place, right? So really, instead of punishing the kid for throwing the rock, right, we should encourage him to throw more rocks at even more windows because he would be stimulating the economy based on all the work that would result from that act of vandalism. Now, when you follow it, though, and look at the unseen consequences, let's assume the man who lived in that house, who had to spend money repairing his window, where did that money come from? Because nobody has an unlimited amount of money, right? If you spend money on a window, well, what would you have done with that money if you didn't spend it on a window? Well, in the example in Henry Hazlitt's book, well, instead of, let's assume the man was about to buy himself a new suit of clothes. He had some money all set aside to buy a suit of clothes. But because the window was broken and the need for the window was more immediate than his desire to have a new suit of clothing, he decided to take his clothing money that he had saved up for a new suit of clothes and to use that to replace the window that he had before. But now he needs a new one. So now what happens? Well, now he doesn't buy that suit of clothes. So now the tailor doesn't get to make the clothes, or the clothes store doesn't get to sell it. And so whatever economic activity is generated in the window business is lost in the clothing business. But the problem isn't just that we're trading clothing employment for window employment. The problem is, let's look at it from the society's perspective, or that individual. Is the individual whose window was broken better off because he has to repair the broken window? No, he's not better off because he doesn't have the suit of clothes. If his window didn't break, he would still have a window, but he would also have a new suit of clothes to wear. But because the window broke and now he has to replace it, he has a window, but he doesn't have his new suit of clothes. So in other words, he's worse off, society is worse off, and that should be obvious from the start. It's only the nonsense of Keynesianism where you would be dumb enough to think that we're better off because we have to repair what has been broken. And that analogy is going to be the same. Whatever resources we are forced to use as a nation to repair whatever Hurricane Sandy destroys, all of those resources could have been put to other uses, but will not be able to be put to other uses because they will be put to the use of restoring things that we already had, denying us having new things that we might have otherwise had if we didn't have to redirect those resources, including labor, to replacing what we had before. And especially considering the fact that we're probably going to have to go into debt, which means bigger deficits. It means a weaker dollar. Of course, we're going to have to buy more, a lot more things, more wood, more building materials, which means the price of these materials is going to go up. it means it's going to cost more to construct houses now because we're probably going to have to repair a lot more. So this increases costs, increases prices. It's going to depress living standards. Yes, there might be some jobs, but at what cost? At what expense? What are we going to have to give up so that we can expend the resources, labor, capital necessary to repair this? I mean, they were saying the same thing after they had the tsunami and the earthquake in Japan. And of course, what happened in Japan? Their trade surpluses turned into deficits because they had to import a lot of things now to help clean up. And plus, they lost a lot of their nuclear power capabilities, so they had to import more gasoline. The Japanese aren't better off because of that earthquake. Of course, the government did even more damage by creating a currency earthquake by debasing the yen against the dollar, which only added to their woes. But America, we're already running big trade deficits. This is going to mean even bigger trade deficits. We'll produce less, we'll consume more. But you're going to hear all kinds of nonsense about how this is good. But the other problem that I'm worried about is the politics of this thing coming so close to an election. President Obama is in a position to be Santa Claus, right? He's going to come down for all these photo ops. He's going to go to New York. He's going to go to Connecticut. He's going to go to New Jersey, and he's going to have a big checkbook. And he's going to promise all sorts of money to all the victims. And he's going to look like the hero giving out money. And no one says, where's that money coming from? Who's picking up the tab? What damage is going to be done? It's just all these votes now are for sale.